This is the tragic story of how 7 people were murdered by taking Tylenol to ease their pain and the effect that had on the medical packaging industry in the US. The morning of September 29, 1982 was difficult for 12-year-old Mary Kellerman of Chicago, who was struggling with symptoms of the common cold. She was given an extra-strength Tylenol capsule to relieve her pain. She died shortly after. Also, on that day, 27-year-old Adam Janis passed away after taking Tylenol. Janis's brother, Stanley, and sister-in-law, Teresa, took Tylenol from the same bottle. Stanley died later that same day. Nurse Helen Jensen was the first one to link Tylenol to the deaths, and upon arriving at the Janis residence, she recalls, "I counted up the pills and saw 6 capsules missing, and there were 3 people dead. I said then and there, it's the Tylenol." But nobody believed her. However, despite the doubt, investigators started digging in to uncover what caused all of these deaths. Investigator Nicholas Pichos realized that the number control on the Tylenol bottles was all the same, MC2880. So he entertained Jensen's theory and informed the deputy medical examiner over the phone. The medical examiner requested one thing: that Pichos smell the bottles. When doing so, he replied, the first one smells like the second one, almonds. And they both said at the same time, cyanide. Potassium cyanide is a poison that kills by inhibiting cellular respiration. At 1 a.m. that night, when a doctor received the results from the Tylenol bottle's lab analysis, the investigators' hunch was confirmed. The pills had 100 to 1,000 times the lethal amount of cyanide. These were murders. 2 hours after this discovery, Mary McFarland was pronounced dead, and 5 hours later, Mary Rainier was also pronounced dead, both due to cyanide poisoning. The morning of September 30th had barely started, and all of these murders were already linked. At 10 a.m., Tylenol's parent company, Johnson & Johnson, sent over an attorney and showed up at the Donahue's house. He knew that there was no way this information would remain a secret, and soon, all of Chicago was informed that cyanide had been found in Tylenol and that they should avoid taking the medication. Nurse Jensen pressed the police department to remove Tylenol from the shelves, but it wasn't immediately done. At 3 p.m., Johnson & Johnson declared the recall of Tylenol lot MC2880. Teresa Janis was pronounced dead on the afternoon of October 1st. The body of Paula Prince was found in her apartment a day later, having also died from cyanide poisoning. In the end, 7 people tragically lost their lives to these poisonings. As investigations dragged on and on, Johnson & Johnson recalled all Tylenol products in the United States, and a whopping 31 million bottles with an estimated value of $100 million were taken back. As days turned into weeks, thousands of leads rained upon the Tylenol task force, all fruitless. A New Yorker named James Lewis claimed responsibility, though, for the murders and demanded $1 million from Johnson & Johnson for him to stop. Investigators found him, but deemed there was no evidence to charge him with the killings. However, even though there wasn't much evidence, they had a confession, and Lewis was still sentenced to 20 years behind bars for extortion. The task force was reduced, and the investigation slowly died down. To this day, no one has ever been charged or convicted of the Tylenol murders. James Lewis, the primary suspect, but unlikely culprit, died in July of 2023. There were copycat murders, but none of them as deadly as the original. The Chicago mayor forced the city council to pass a law requiring drugs to be sold in tamper-resistant packaging, and this tragedy also prompted the introduction of nationwide regulations aimed at preventing similar deaths, one of which mandates the use of safety seals on medication bottles. So the next time you break one open, you'll know it's not just as an annoying step for when you open the bottle, it's actually to prevent you from being murdered.